Samus gotta go do all the cool things. No, Nick gotta go clean the bathroom. Hey, you ever played Metroid? It's a Nintendo series that has its origins going all the way back to 1986. It's one of Nintendo's lesser known series, but its impact on the gaming landscape is nothing to scoff at. For a while, the Metroid series was doing pretty well considering its lower sales compared to other Nintendo titles. Nintendo was releasing Metroid games pretty frequently. The first game of the series was developed and published for the NES and was simply named Metroid. And it's cool. You know, it's fine. I've played it a few times. I've never beat it, but it's cool. But back then, people loved it. You gotta remember, games back in 1986 were... The game's story is simple. You play as Samus Aran, a bounty hunter who is tasked by the Galactic Federation. Here, Samus must hunt and destroy any and all space pirates she finds alongside any Metroids steamed with pirates costumes. The space pirates are trying to this example huge problems because Metroids are the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, being able to latch onto and turns out to be the mastermind behind the whole operation, effectively saving the galaxy. Okay, so maybe the story wasn't that simple, but it was really cool. Metroid was a critical and commercial success. People love the gameplay, its non-linear progression, and the fact that if you beat it fast enough, you get a little surprise. Oh my god, Samus is a girl! This success led Nintendo to make a sequel, properly named Metroid 2. Developed for and released on the Game Boy. What? Yeah, we went from the NES to the Game Boy. Long story short, for Metroid 2, Samus is once again tasked to go to SR-388, and her mission this time is to locate and destroy every single Metroid. No exceptions. So that's exactly what she does. After destroying all the Metroids in SR-388, she finds a Queen Metroid. After promptly destroying the Queen Metroid, she finds a Metroid egg. And before she can do anything, it hatches and imprints itself onto Samus, seeing Samus as its mother. So for some reason, Samus doesn't destroy it immediately. Okay, so one exception. She escapes with the baby Metroid in hand and delivers it to the Caress Space Colony. Whatever. Caress Space Colony for research. 3 years later in 1994, Metroid 3 is released, but instead of naming it Metroid 3, they decided to name it Super Metroid because this one is on the Super NES. You gotta make sure people know that before buying the game. And Super it is. This is the most iconic Metroid game and one of the most iconic games in general. For a lot of people, it was their first Metroid experience. And what an experience this is. Super Metroid really ramps everything up. The graphics, sounds, and most importantly for this section, story. Super Metroid takes place literally right after Metroid 2. Samus gave the scientist the baby Metroid, the scientists began research on it and realized that the energy producing abilities could be harvested and be used for the betterment of mankind. But then, the space pirates noticed the baby Metroid and want it for themselves, seeing it as a tactical advantage to take over the galaxy. After getting a distress call, Samus comes back to the scientists just to find out that they were all killed by the pirates, who are being led by her arch nemesis Ridley, who has taken the baby Metroid for himself, and now Samus must find the baby and put an end to all of this. And then fast forward. Okay, cool. In the end, Samus finds and kills Ridley, finds the baby Metroid, and learns who was behind everything all along. It's Mother Brain again! How is she so slick? Look at her! Oh my god, look at her. Samus tries to defeat Mother Brain but is backed into a corner. With no way out, it seems like all is lost, and Samus will be defeated once and for all. Well, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense because there are sequels to Super Metroid, so how is that supposed to... Oh, the baby Metroid! The baby Metroid comes in, yeah, that's the baby Metroid, it's really big now. Is able to come in and absorb the life energy from Mother Brain in order to transfer it into Samus. And after doing so, Mother Brain gets up and gets her revenge by killing the baby Metroid in front of Samus. And then, I don't know, somehow, Samus not only gets up, but is now able to use an ultra mega beam and just destroys Mother Brain once and for all. And then the planet starts to self-destruct, so Samus has to get the fuck out of there. So she runs all the way back up to her ship, gets in, and leaves, leaving the planet behind and everything on it to explode. Unless you did the thing where you saved the little alien guys who for some reason decided to teach you how to wall jump that one time, so they're really cute and now you have to pay them back in some way. So you go and you tell them, hey, you're gonna leave now, and they look at you and they're like, oh my god, thank you so much, and you're like, yeah, no problem, dog, it's fine. And then they just leave. And then because of that, in the end screen you can see this little dot fly away. There they go, look at that, look at them, you saved them. So everything on that planet, as far as we know, exploded and died forever. Remember that, that's gonna come up later. Now, in the timeline between Metroid 2 and Super Metroid is the Metroid Prime trilogy. I'm not going to go over each of the Prime games' stories since they are kind of its own saga in the grand plot of the Metroid series, so instead just know in the Prime games, Samus does a lot of badass things and she saves the day. Even though the Prime games are in first person rather than 2D side-scrollers, all these games share the same general gameplay formula. In Metroid, the formula for each game goes like this. Samus is called for a mission, something happens to her in which she loses all her powers, and throughout the game you will find those missing powers and be able to advance in areas you previously could not access before. Metroid games are relatively built like mazes, so a lot of the game is up to you to figure out where to go and how to progress with the abilities you have on hand. If this sounds familiar to you, it's probably because this type of game is a genre named Metroidvania, and if you're really perceptive, you'll recognize a word in there that may seem familiar. It's Metroid. The series that we're talking about. Metroidvanias get their name from combining the games of Metroid, obviously, and Castlevania, which both followed the same similar rule set. At the time, there were no games like these two, and calling them action-adventure games when they didn't really play like the other action-adventure games out there didn't really make sense. So people ended up calling them Metroidvanias in order to just make everything simple. If you like Metroid or Castlevania games, then hey, you'll like these games. They're also action-adventure, but not action-adventure. They're more like adventure with action. It's weird. There's not a lot of AAA games that have come out in this genre since it's kind of a rough genre to not only get into, but to make well. Imagine being a developer and having to make an insanely huge maze that people not only want to get out of, but have fun while doing it. Mazes can be really annoying with all their dead ends and obstacles that developers have to intentionally put in there and players have to run into. So because of that, would you believe me that not every developer is jumping at the idea to do one? It's a huge risk. That's why there's so few Metroidvania games out there, and even fewer successful ones at that. However, the ones that are successful are granted fans who are not only dedicated, but eager for any potential next game from the developer or even sequel to the original game. I see you Hollow Knight fans. Silksong, am I right? I feel really bad for you guys. And let me tell you, Metroid fans are dedicated and are always excited for a sequel or a prequel or anything for that matter. No, not you. Get the fuck out of here. Subscribe to Nikki Nobicki. You know, no matter how much I scrub this, it doesn't come off. I think he has a Patreon. 3 years after the release of Metroid Prime 3, Metroid Other M is released for the Wii in 2010. However, this game is promising one big major difference for the series, and that one big major difference is everything. They changed everything. There is nothing like this in Metroid. Other M is not developed by either of the teams that made the original games or the Prime games, but rather developed by Team Ninja, the team that famously brought you Ninja Gaiden 2, which was received extremely well for its fast-paced and over-the-top action. But, as you could probably imagine, the people who made a linear action-packed game might struggle making a non-linear exploration type of game, which is a little worrisome. They are promising on delivering a Metroid game with so much action, the likes that we've never seen before in the series until this point, and a strong cinematic narrative, something Nintendo isn't too fond of. Nintendo as a company is very particular about how they make their stories for their games. And by that, I mean they don't give a damn about story and only have them in their games out of necessity, I think. This could be rough with the legion of fans that they have who care deeply about the stories in their games. But I mean, this is really exciting stuff to hear for Metroid. The series is nowhere near the biggest franchise under Nintendo's belt, with its smaller sales numbers compared to everything else Nintendo owns, but the people who have played it know just how amazing each and every game is despite their flaws. So maybe a more action-packed, story-driven game is what Metroid needs. And you know what? Let's just finally address the elephant in the room. Because I know I'm not crazy and it's standing right there and I'm freaking out a little bit. This game is notoriously ridiculed on the internet. I mean, if you looked online, you would think this game basically killed the Metroid series. Holy shit! I'm gonna be straight up with you. I'm a really new fan to the franchise. I didn't play my first Metroid game until the remaster of Prime, and I fell head over heels for everything Metroid. I've played Prime Remastered, Super, AM2R, Fusion, Dread, and I'm in a playthrough now of Metroid Prime 2, and I'm having a great time. So going into this, I was a little nervous, you know? Everybody really hates this game, and what if I'm the weirdo that likes it? I mean, you can't tell me in a vacuum that this isn't one of the coolest things you've ever seen. So in that aspect, I was really excited. but I know the reputation this game has. So I'm gonna reel my expectations in and go into this game with an open mind. This game sucks!
Who wants the hot 4? 5 wants 4.
Check me out, y'all.
Play 6.
Other M takes place right after the events of Super Metroid and even recaps the ending of Super with an insanely nice looking cinematic. This single cutscene shows off both the best and the worst that this game has to offer. The graphics and art direction are both extremely well done and still hold up incredibly well. Every cinematic is engaging with its high adrenaline cinematography and action while being coupled with downright horrible dialogue and, for the most part, atrocious story. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on the story for now. Samus is recounting the last few moments of Super with her fight against Mother Brain, specifically the moment where the baby Metroid comes in to save Samus. In this moment, we get to see what Samus herself was thinking while this was happening. Get used to that, because we're going to hear a lot of what Samus thinks in this game. And right now, what she's thinking about is the baby Metroid, who she calls the baby. And man, does she not stop thinking about it.
Baby, and the baby, the baby, the baby, the baby, babies cry, baby crying.
This baby meant the world to her, and as funny as it is to make fun of how much she talks about it, she really only does it in the first 5 minutes, and then they pretty much just drop it after that. Samus is then woken up by a quarantine officer who has cleaned up her suit and is helping Samus make sure that she is in tip-top shape. Then Samus leaves and goes off to space waiting for her next bounty. That's when she gets a signal. Baby's cry signal. You see, I see what you did there, because it's a signal that's supposed to get people's attention, like a baby's cry. Yeah. But isn't that what a signal is? A cry for help? You see, Other M is going to keep trying to do this thing where it's trying to sound smarter than it is. And not only that, but Samus will repeatedly tell you exactly what something means, not letting the audience put it together on their own.
Baby crying. The nickname comes from the fact that the purpose of the signal is to draw attention.
After landing where the signal distress was emitting from, Samus goes in to investigate, and while doing so, she not only finds a Galactic Federation ship, but she also finds the people that go along with it. Here, she finds an old friend of hers, Anthony, who we all love, by the way, he's the best character here, and Adam Malkovich, her former superior officer, and a bunch of other guys, but they don't matter. Yeah, Samus used to be in the Galactic Federation before the very first game, and for whatever reason, she decided to leave, making Adam not her superior officer anymore. After getting past the locked door that these guys could not get past without the help of Samus and her abilities, Adam goes up in this room and assigns everyone on the crew to their own missions to complete on the ship, including me. Yeah, Adam told me to clean up the bathrooms. I mean, come on, like, what a stupid job, man. What, you don't remember me? Dude, I was in the group. I was right there! Adam orders Samus to go investigate the system management room and then tells Samus to not use her power bombs or any other ability in Samus's arsenal until directed to do so. So Samus decides to follow that order. You know, from the guy who's not her superior officer anymore? Who the fuck cares about what this guy thinks? You're Samus Aran. This guy's a fucking idiot. I need to calm down. I'm an adult. From here on, I'm not going to waste your time and tell you every little detail that happens in this game like I've been doing so far, because frankly, much of it barely matters anymore. All of this was just set up for you to understand how frustrating this game is. I'm just going to hit the bullet points. I'm just going to be straight up with you. There is barely anything to explore in this game because there's barely anything to find other than health and missile upgrades. The game doesn't require you to explore anything else. And even if you did want to, the areas you run around in are extremely linear, leaving little to nothing to explore. Yeah, you can find little crevices here and there, but it's always the same thing at the end. A missile or health upgrade. And sometimes, because of how the previous games taught us to play Metroid games throughout all the years, I would sometimes get lost because I don't have the ability that I need to progress. But I can't find the ability to progress because I'm given the ability. So I'm running around these rooms over and over again thinking I'm doing something wrong because that's how every other Metroid game is. If I can't find a solution, that's because I haven't found an answer. The time this really got to me was when I got to the volcano section. In every other Metroid game ever, if you find a fire area and your health starts to go down, you have to leave and find the Varia suit in order to take the heat. But for this game, for some reason, they decided, No. You have to run through the heated area and run as fast as you can, avoiding a magma creature who's trying to kill you to get to the next area. It's not until you climb all the way up a fucking volcano that you are granted access to the various suit. What the fuck? That goes against all the rules Metroid has had up until this point. Not to say that a game in a series can't flip the rules on the player every once in a while, but you can't do it like this. This isn't fun. This is confusing. Also, I don't know where to put this, but I hate the map in this game. It doesn't orient to you when you pull it up. You can't move it around like you can in the Prime games, and it disorients you when you're just trying to figure out where to go sometimes. Also, the minimap is huge and covers up a noticeable portion of the screen. Maybe it doesn't bother other people, but man, it bothers me. It's supposed to be mini. Why is it so large? It's covering up the scenery, for God's sake. The combat is not the worst thing in the world. Far from it, actually. It's honestly one of the better parts in this whole game. I like when the game sticks you in a room and forces you to fight and destroy every enemy before letting you progress, because once you get into the groove of the gameplay, the game feels really fun to play. You can charge up your beam and jump on enemies to do massive damage, and sometimes you can just run up to them and do a really cool finisher. It looks and feels fluid sometimes. There are going to be times where you're not shooting who you want to shoot, or you die because of the shitty health and missile system. In order to heal in this game, you have to stop what you're doing, stand still, and regain your health. Doesn't sound too bad until you have a bunch of enemies on you and you have to heal up really quickly, but you can't find any time to do so, so they just smack the fuck out of you and then you die. I can't even heal when I want to. I have to wait until I'm in the red to do so. And even when you do heal, you only heal the first bar of health max unless you find an upgrade that lets you heal more. Here's a solution to both problems. Why not just make the enemies drop health and missiles when they die? That way you can heal while beating their ass. And how about letting us heal more than one bar? That way, I would actually want to kill the enemies that are hanging around the map. Without being able to pick up missiles or health from normal enemies, I just run past them because they do nothing for me. It's literally an optional obstacle that I can avoid. Like I said, combat is fun and all, but there's no point in fighting if my only reward is losing resources and health and gaining nothing in return. It's like drinking and not forgetting. And then if you want to shoot a missile at something, anything, you have to stop in the middle of what you're doing and line up a shot, and then, and only then, do you have the privilege to shoot a missile. Oh my god! I don't mind it so much during the exploration segments. It's still annoying, but I can deal with it. But it just breaks all the flow you have in combat. Like I said, the combat could be really fun, but if I can just shoot missiles like normally, dude, it'd be amazing. I know a lot of the problems with the controls are because of the fact that the game is meant to be played with a Wiimote on its side, and let's just say, I'm not playing with a Wiimote on its side, so it's easy for me to look at my controller and see how much free real estate a normal controller has. But I still don't like the compromises they made here. I don't know what else they could have done with this setup, but man, it sucks. Okay, here we go. The story section of this game is gonna be the longest part. And I'm only gonna say not only what I need to, but what I want to. Because a lot of the story genuinely doesn't matter. Backstory is a huge part of this game. A lot of the plot has to do with Samus's backstory and how she became who she is today. Like I said earlier, Samus used to be part of the Galactic Federation when she was younger, with Adam being her commanding officer. Samus, for the most part, liked Adam as an officer and highly respected him, and Adam did the same for Samus. However, while they did respect each other, they would still butt heads a lot of the time. For example, whenever Adam would direct a meeting and ask if everyone understood what he said, the team would salute with a thumbs up, while Samus would not salute at all. Adam would then ask Samus if she understood by playfully addressing her as Lady, in which Samus would give a thumbs down, signaling that she did both understand what was being stated and that she hates being called Lady. Which, by the way, is just so fucking stupid. What kind of salute is a thumbs up? Yeah, I would give a thumbs down to this too, Adam. This is stupid. It's another example of the writing trying to be better than it is. Another instance in when they would butt heads is when Adam was overseeing an operation his younger brother was on. Basically, things got tense with the ship Adam's brother was on and is about to explode while Adam and his crew were nearby. Samus is begging Adam to let her go and grab his brother, and Adam refuses, ordering the crew to abandon his brother and move away immediately, leaving his brother to die in the explosion alone. While Samus understands now that his decision was the right thing to do in that moment, she resented Adam for that order, causing her to leave the Federation and becoming the lone bounty hunter we know her as today. So why the fuck does she care about Adam's orders and other M? I understand that she still respects Adam and cares for him, and Adam even states that some abilities like the power bomb could be dangerous while they're looking for survivors. But she's already proved that with her abilities, she can help more than she can harm. And that's just one ability. Would she really be endangering survivors if she had her Various suit on her? Or do we have to wait until she dodged the magma monster that's chasing her and climbed the fucking volcano and is dying from the heat to access it? The fact that her abilities are literally just locked away from her is probably the biggest problem I have with the story overall. I don't care that she was once in the Federation force. I don't care if she took orders from Adam before. I don't care about all that stuff because this is a part as to why she's so good at her job. She's had training, and I actually kind of like the fact that she left the force on her own terms. Also, if you're talking so much about her past, maybe mention the Chozo. You don't have to spend a lot of time with it, but you know, she's kind of part Chozo, and that's a big part of her backstory, so maybe bring that up once. I don't think the lack of Chozo presence does Samus dirty in the big picture, but it is pretty weird to not mention them at all. Where they do Samus dirty is in her dialogue and how they present her as a character. In every Metroid game, Samus has been, for the most part, a silent protagonist. We know she has thoughts and opinions, and she acts on those when she wants, but she doesn't tell us what she's thinking. We, as the audience, can analyze her demeanor and put together what's going on in her head. But in this game, they wanted to give her a voice, which on paper, I'm not too harsh on. If you gave her little to no dialogue, like Master Chief in the earlier Halo games, I wouldn't have a problem. She would only talk when she needs to because her actions speak for her, just like Master Chief. But no, they decided to make her say everything she's thinking to the audience, never giving us a moment to come to our own conclusions. She even gives us full backstories in the middle of a conversation with other people! It's like one of the first things she does when seeing Adam for the first time. It's about how we learn about her time in the Federation. Same thing with the environments. In the older games, you explore these places, for the most part, for the first time alongside Samus, and with the details in the environments, we can come to our own conclusions about what this place was and what happened to it. You can probably guess where I'm going with this. Environmental storytelling is amazing. It's one of my favorite things about the Metroid franchise. In Other M though, Samus walks into a room, explains everything she's looking at to the audience, and leaves. What? Where's the tension? Where's the silence that allows the audience to take in the environment and piece together the story? When you just lay it out all bare, telling the audience exactly what happened, it gives us no chance to linger on emotions or moments. People get uninterested because every room, character, and glance will be explained immediately. At one point, Samus finds a small alien creature and just look at you. Oh my god, they're so cute, look at you. But it's clear to Samus that the alien is following her not because it wants to, but because it needs to. You see, every time Samus kills an enemy, this little guy goes over and eats the corpse of whatever Samus just killed. Later on, Samus and crew learn whoever used to be on the ship was experimenting with dead space pirates and trying to create bioweapons, a project directed by Dr. Madeline Bergman. Not only is all of this illegal to do, but what makes it worse is that this ship is a Galactic Federation ship, making it a conspiracy. Why would the Galactic Federation be breaking its own rules? And who is Dr. Madeline Bergman? These are cool questions to linger in the player's mind. While exploring more of the facility, Samus is called out to help the crew fight a new threat. A huge alien creature is attacking them, and Samus comes in to help. After some help from Anthony, the crew sends the alien packing. Samus then finds the corpse of that cute little alien we saw earlier with its back burst open. This is one of the only times Samus doesn't elaborate much on what she's looking at. And I'm telling you, because of that alone, it stuck in my mind way more than almost anything else in this game. Adam tells Samus to go follow the large alien some more, and so she does. In her pursuit, Samus finds a woman who she then chases down, and after failing to catch her, Samus tries to reason with the woman through the door. The woman says that she won't trust anyone whose own people are killing each other. Ah, there's a traitor in the group. Okay, interesting. Someone has been killing off members of the crew, and with no way to identify them, Samus opts to call them the Deleter. Oh my god, so stupid. Like, you can't just call them a traitor. It has to be something stupid. Come on. and then a lot of gameplay, yada yada yada, we finally get to the most infamous part of this game. The scene with Ridley. So after a lot of running around, not only looking for the alien Adam instructed her to look for, but also for the deleter, Samus walks into a room where a red dot sight starts taking aim at her head. Turns out that the red dot leads back to Anthony. Samus takes aim, but Anthony tells her to get down. A huge, dangerous alien flies by. Whoa, there he goes. Who could that be? Oh man, my theories are through the roof. I can only imagine who that was. Come on, guys. Like, try to hide him or something, guys. What the fuck? The alien shoots down the only exit, so now both Anthony and Samus are stuck in the room with it. Samus tells Anthony to save his bullets because she's gonna go fight it alone. And then the big reveal. Oh, Samus, look, it's Ridley! It's Ridley! You've beaten him like 5 times! 6 if you count the 3DS remake of Metroid 2! Oh, that's so cool! Hey, Samus, did you see that? Samus, what's wrong?
It's Ridley.
Yeah, it's Ridley. What's wrong with that?
I'm scared.
What? You beat him like 5 times! 6 if you count the 3DS remake of Metroid 2!
I'm reliving my trauma.
What are you talking about? This cutscene has done so much damage to the Metroid series as a whole. Samus sees Ridley, who, last we saw in the timeline, was killed by Samus and exploded along with the planet after she left. But somehow, he's back. They explain him coming back because of some of the DNA being scraped off of Samus' suit when they cleaned it back at the beginning and used it to accidentally create Ridley again. He was that little alien we saw earlier and has been transforming into what we see now, which I think is really cool. We get to see Ridley evolve into his old self again, but Samus hasn't learned this yet. So to her, this is fucking crazy. How is Ridley back? She killed him. She fucking blew up the planet he was on, and yet he's back? Nothing is making sense to her in this moment, and because of that, she begins to have a panic attack. She sees herself as a child again, and in this moment feeling weak and small compared to Ridley, which I don't think was the right reaction here. Don't get me wrong, I understand why someone would start to have a panic attack in a situation like this. I mean, if you don't know, Ridley is the guy who killed Samus's entire planet. Kind of a huge reason as to why she is who she is now. Without Ridley causing that trauma, Samus would have lived a normal life, never being raised by the Chozo or having served in the Federation. Samus wouldn't have saved the galaxy countless times now. But that's the thing. She's beaten him time and time again, saved multiple planets, countless lives, and has beaten Ridley specifically 5 times, 6 if you count the remake of Metroid on the 3DS. You get it. I don't think a Samus who has accomplished all these feats would start to have a panic attack. I think she would go in a blind rage. Think about it. To Samus, she's finally killed Ridley, who, like I said, has caused so much suffering to not only her, but to so many people. She got rid of him, and now, somehow, not only is he back, but back in his prime. Personally, I'd be pissed. In a game where Samus has so much character and so much experience, I think she would be furious. She would go blinded by rage and go after Ridley with no regard to anyone else's safety. Dropping her guard would also be a good reason to have Anthony fall into the lava. By the way, Anthony falls into the lava in the scene. Making her realize that because of her rage, she failed to protect someone. So she calms down and focuses on the task at hand, killing Ridley once and for all. Not only for her sake, but for the people she let down. Get it? Because Anthony fell into the lava. I also don't want to insinuate that Samus can't have any trauma responses, and that if a badass character has a moment of weakness, that makes them lesser. I think the absolute opposite. I think more characters should have realistic depictions of trauma, and we should see them struggle with it and overcome said trauma. I just think that at this point in the Metroid story, Samus would not react in the way that she did. She wouldn't feel like a scared little girl, but a furious woman who wants to get rid of the monster that took everything from her and continues to torment countless others. Other than that, the scene is pretty cool in like a vacuum. If you were to tell me that this scene took place near the very beginning of the timeline, I don't think I would have any issues with it. But that's basically the whole problem with this game. So many issues in this game would have been avoided if you placed this earlier in the timeline and changed some of the story beats. But alas, no. This is what we got. After a, honestly, pretty fun boss fight with Ridley, he runs away and Samus continues her journey, but not before telling us exactly how she feels about what happened to Anthony. During the fight with Ridley, Adam is presumed to be attacked and, for a while, is out of the picture, so there's no one telling Samus where to go or what to do. She's on her own. She's finally making her own decisions, and it's fun! She's unlocking her own abilities now, since she knows she has to use them to access areas and even make a joke using Adam's words against him.
Any objections, Adam?
It's cute, but also annoying because it just makes it more obvious that Samus knows what she can and can't do. What, because of Adam's bitch ass I couldn't use the spark jump this whole time? Fuck him! Samus runs into the woman she saw earlier and this time is able to convince her to talk. Turns out this is Madeline Bergman, the one in charge of the bioweapons operation. Madeline explains the whole scenario to Samus. Basically, the Federation wanted to create bioweapons using the Zebians as the basis, which are the space pirates, but because of the presence of Ridley, it wasn't working as intended. Because the operation was effectively a failure, the Federation sent a team to kill any and all hostiles on the ship. However, to not let anyone leak information, they also sent in a traitor to eliminate the crew after the mission was completed to ensure the safety of the Federation. Which is fucking crazy. But you know what's crazier? The Federation wanted to nurture Metroids in order to use them as weapons. Did they not learn what the fuck happens when you just have one Metroid? Literally in the last game in the timeline, they had one baby Metroid for like a week. And it was the focal point of the whole disaster that ensued on Zebes. The Federation must be ran by fucking monkeys who refuse to learn their lesson. If one monkey falls off the bed and hits its head, it's time to stop jumping! This is also the point where Samus learns that when the Federation cleaned up her suit in the very beginning of the game, they took whatever samples of DNA was left on her and used that to accidentally make Ridley and create more Metroids. Because again, monkeys. We learn where the Metroids are being held. Sector 0, and Samus goes out to find and kill them. After entering Sector 0, Samus encounters a stray Metroid and hesitates on killing it. I actually kind of like this because now she's torn. Maybe Metroids can be reasoned with in some way. That one baby Metroid loves Samus after all. But in the end, her saving that Metroid kind of caused all this pain to happen. So she pulls her arm cannon out and goes to fire at the Metroid. But suddenly, she's shot in the back and is woken up later by Adam, who basically says, yo, I'm gonna go self-destruct section with all the Metroids in it, and you can't do that because Galaxy needs you, so see ya. Oh, by the way, Madeline Bergman is not an ally. Oh, and make sure to kill Ridley, he's insane. With that, Adam walks away with Samus, struggling to follow. She doesn't want to let him go alone, but she knows she has to. She is the only one who can save the ship and defeat Ridley, and Adam knows this too. I really like that Adam knows just how strong Samus is and gives her that approval. He even apologizes for the way he's been treating her up until this point, which, like, you know, a little too fucking late, but whatever, man. And with the door closed between them, leaving Samus with no way of interfering with Adam's plan, he looks over one last time and says,
no objections. Right, lady?
And we see Samus reluctantly give him one final salute. A thumbs up. Are you serious, bro? I know what they're trying to do, but oh my god, it's so dumb, dude. It's a pretty powerful scene, mirroring the time where Adam had to leave his brother to die, and you just had to ruin it. This sucks. This one scene almost makes me forgive Adam. It makes me care for him. But because of him, we couldn't use the abilities that Samus had all this time. Sometimes it felt like he would only allow us to use them at the most dire of moments. So I don't care what he does. I hate him for that. They could have done so much more with this character and the relationship him and Samus have. It's a real disappointment. At this point, there's basically no one on the ship anymore to talk to. It's just Samus. There's basically no dialogue for a while, and it's kind of eerie, which is pretty cool. You really feel alone now. Well, yeah, you were alone while exploring and stuff. You didn't really feel alone because you knew that your crew was around somewhere. So you're not really quote unquote alone. This is when the game really starts to feel like Metroid again, to a certain degree. To add to the eerie vibe, we see Ridley get in a fight with some monster and we don't see the outcome. Not long after, we find a dead crewmate, James, who I think is supposed to be the leader in question. So that's it. That's the answer. That just kind of happens. There's no talking, there's no fight, just, oh, hey, that's the leader, okay. And we move on. And then right after that, we find Ridley dead. Are you serious? I know it's supposed to show just how powerful the next enemy is, but I would have loved it if he died by Samus's hands instead of whatever killed him. It just feels like a cheap way to hype up the next boss. I always hate when stories do that. Then we meet one of the only survivors on the ship, and this woman is freaking out. While Samus is trying to calm her down, they are interrupted by a giant gate slightly opening up. Then we see what was lurking inside, and it's a fucking Queen Metroid again? Not to sound annoying, but that's pretty boring, man. I was thinking maybe it could have been a weird genetically augmented Metroid monster. That would showcase how the Federation was kind of making some Frankenstein monsters, you know? I don't know, I thought that would be pretty cool. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, kill it! Oh my god! We did it! Samus killed it. The lady who was freaking out leaves the room she was in and finally explains everything to Samus. Alright, let's do this. The woman tells Samus that her name is Madeline Bergman, and the woman Samus was talking to before who said that her name was Madeline Bergman was actually Mother Brain, the same Mother Brain from Metroid 1 and Super, but the scientist who made her only used the data of Mother Brain and not the memories so that she wouldn't turn evil like she has before. Again, monkeys. Instead of calling her Mother Brain, they now call her MB for short. MB was doing great work, helping the team further their research while also being the one to have the ability to control the Metroids through telepathy, just like before. In order to fully control the Metroids, MB was given an android body. Her having a physical body made the Metroids believe that she was their organic mother. They refused to stop jumping on the bed. But one day, MB started to develop emotions. Red flag. So they began to alter her AI programming in hopes to make her less human. On the day that they were going to do this, Madeline saw them detain MB and saw the raw emotion and fear MB had. MB was calling out to Madeline. Madeline this whole time has been calling MB Melissa Bergman, insinuating that Madeline saw MB as a daughter and MB saw Madeline as a mother. By the way, I am not interpreting any of this. They are literally explaining all of this to me. I just want to make that perfectly clear. There is no time for me to interpret or put anything together. Anyway, let's keep going. Seeing Madeline do nothing to help caused MB to go into an uncontrollable rage and gain control of all the creatures on the ship, causing complete chaos in hopes of getting revenge. With all the creatures at the palm of her hand, MB was planning on attacking the Federation HQ itself. Madeline was the one who sent out the distress signal and caused Samus and the others to come and ruin MB's plan. Jesus. Okay, yeah. No, okay, it was a lot to say. If the story sounds convoluted, that's because it is. There are so many moving parts in this story that it becomes hard to follow, and some things don't even matter, like the leader and who they are. Yes, I'm still hung up on that. We then see MB again as she points a gun to Madeline. This creates a tense standoff where MB starts to say stuff like, I'm gonna make all the humans pay for what they did, and Madeline's like, no, don't do that, chill, Melissa. That's when MB rushes forward and pushes Madeline out of the way in order to take a freeze bullet for her, shot by one of the Federation goons. You know, we can't say goon anymore. People really ruined that for us. The Federation moves in close to Samus and Madeline to do something. I don't know what they were gonna do. And MB somehow removes the ice from her body, tossing her gun to Madeline and summons aliens to fight for her. Everyone is panicked and shooting all willy-nilly, including you. And in the middle of all this, you see MB standing there watching all the chaos happen in front of her. And after noticing her, Madeline takes a shot at MB, freezing her and allowing the Federation to open fire at her, effectively killing MB, disabling the link between her and the aliens, which just kind of dropped dead after the fact. I don't know. Then some old guy comes in telling Samus that she did a good job, but because of her track record, she is not part of the Federation, so she can't be in contact with Madeline, who is in the process of grieving and being pulled away from MB, which is honestly kind of sad. Then the old guy instructs someone to grab Samus and get her out of here, which is where Anthony comes in. That's right, he didn't die falling into the lava after all. He just shot the thing and then fell somewhere else. I don't know. They don't really explain it. And after saying some mumbo jumbo, I really couldn't care anymore at this point. Samus, Madeline, and Anthony get into Samus' ship and head out, leaving the bottle ship for good. By the way, that ship that we were on the whole time was called the bottle ship. I don't think I ever wrote that or said that. And with that, we finally see the credits. God damn. Metroid Other M is such a weird experience because in a lot of ways, it's a terrible game and has earned its title of being such. But sometimes, you can see what the developers were going for. You can see that they wanted to bring a new spin on the Metroid formula and not just do what they've been doing for every game, spin-off or not. Which is admirable, but damn, this is not the way to go about it. The story is convoluted, combat is fun, but it's not worth participating in, and the environments offer little to no reason to explore them. The story is without a doubt the worst aspect of this game, and is the reason I went so in depth with it. You can see that they wanted to make an interesting story for the series while incorporating actual voice actors to flesh it out even more. And while there are some really fun aspects, it's ultimately bogged down by its atrocious writing and messy plot. But I think they should try again. I don't know, man. I think Metroid is full of potential for a real honest-to-goodness story with actors and dialogue and fun action. Hell, I think they should maybe even revisit this genre as a whole one day. Samus is a badass bounty hunter that can pull off insane tricks. Just look at Dread if you need proof. So an action-heavy game could work for her. Just make everything else feel more like the classic games. Samus doesn't need to talk all the time in order for us to understand what she's thinking, and we don't need someone to tell us what we're looking at all the time. It's more fun when we put things together ourselves. So yeah, this is the worst Metroid game out there, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean it has no merit. I think in a lot of ways, people have taken the hate this game has and has blown it out of proportion. It deserves hate, but some people act like this game killed their dogs. It's not that deep, guys. Moral of the story, I think that while we should acknowledge what this game has done to the series, I also think it's time for us to just let it go and clean it off our collective conscience. Huh. Hey, would you look at that? My job kind of became like metaphorical in a way. You know, I guess Adam did know what he was talking about. You know, you got to give it to him. He's a smart guy sometimes. Hey, what's up? It's me, Nicky Nobicki, the guy who made the video that you just watched. This video took a lot longer than I thought it would be, so if you liked it and want to support me, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want. That's up to you. I also have a Patreon. I know I mentioned it like really briefly, but I do have a Patreon now, and I think it's really cool. So if you want to support me, that's the best way to do it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I love you. Have a good one.
Come on, Samus. Let's go next door.